Long ago there was a flourishing world called Eternia where the citizens lived in relative peace for years. However, an evil empire called the Horde had invaded their world to enslave them. It was led by a tyrant named Lord Hordak, who was determined to conquer the realm. Alongside was his trusted advisor, Shadow Weaver, and a young Gar who was his loyal force captain and pupil, Kelder. The Horde invasion of Eternia had conquered many territories. But despite their past victories, they began losing ground when the courage of the Eternian army fought back to retake their world. The secret to their victory was none other than Eternia. She came from a village called Nauela which was captured by the Horde. It was overseen by an Eternian named Morgoth, who betrayed his own people to their invaders for his selfish desires. Thankfully, a young woman named Marlena Glen, who was the trusted ally of Prince Randa, helped Eternia in her search to find the legendary Castle Grayskull. It was rumored that Marlena Glen came from a distant world. Both Eternia and Marlena finally found the legendary castle where they first met the late sorceress, Kodak Ungol, a wise and powerful old woman who kept the secrets of Castle Grayskull for years, but her time is nearly through. The old sorceress has chosen Eternia to pass the mantle on to her, and with the magic powers of Castle Grayskull, she liberated her village and defeated Morgoth. The tipping point of the war fell to Eternia's favor when the new sorceress helped them with their fight against the invasion. For years, Hordak was unable to advance the invasion, and his Horde military was pushed back to their secret base. However, Hordak was still determined to conquer Eternia, despite losing most of the territories he captured. It was not his stubbornness that kept him going, than it was his future visions. They showed him sitting on the very throne of Castle Grayskull, where two mighty warriors who kneeled before him as the supreme ruler of the universe. It was his whole reason why he started the invasion on Eternia in the first place. Finding the two warriors of his visions were his priority, and conquering was the only way to draw them out. His visions were never wrong, and they had saved his life countless times to ever doubt them. But Hordak never told anyone about his abilities. Not his force captain Kelder. Not even his longtime advisor Shadow Weaver. 1 year later, Marlena, the new queen of Eternia, had given birth to twins who were named Adora and Adam. The news spread throughout Eternia, where it reached to Hordak within his secret base. The names of the children startled him. Adora and Adam. He automatically recognized their names as the prophesized warriors who were destined for something special, to help him in his conquest to rule the realms. It was too good to be true. But there was no mistake that they are the warriors foretold by his visions. He grinned, knowing his dark wish will soon become a reality. So, he hatched a vile plot to steal them both away. Fortunate for Hordak, his force captain Kelder had a spy behind the enemy lines. A young woman named Evelyn from the city of Tandaria. Evelyn was born in Tandaria and raised by her father, known only as the Faceless One. Her father would have disapproved of his daughter's servitude of the Horde, but he never found out about her dealings with them. Evelyn handed them over the designed layouts of the royal castle, which include a secret passageway into the royal palace. Hordak congratulated his force captain's resourcefulness and the spy who helped them with their devious schemes. He carried out his nefarious plan by launching a full-scale attack on the Eternian capital as a diversion to sneak into the palace. As the Horde army advanced their military operation, Hordak brought Shadow Weaver and Kelder to help him proceed his vile plot to kidnap the royal twins of Eternia. As the fighting outside of the Eternian fortress goes on, Queen Marlena was with her children in the royal shelter to keep them safe from harm. Unaware of the evil lurking around them, the Dark Lord himself appeared right in front of her. Before she could draw out her pistol to fire at him, The Force captain knocks her weapon away and cuffed her on the ground. Hordak gloated over his triumphant success of his plan. He took the infant Adora into his clutches. The thought of ruling the universe overwhelmed him with joy, knowing he is one step closer to his goal. He saw the infant Adam across the room as he approached him. Before he could claim the prince, Man-at-Arms and King Randa attacked them. The unexpected encounter caught Hordak by surprise when he saw them. His army should have kept them preoccupied away from here. But somehow they managed to see through their deception in time for them to foil his plans. Queen Marlena took her opportunity and hit Kelda, and tossed him across. She quickly grabbed her son into her arms to protect him from the horde. The Force captain quickly stood up and joined the fight with Shadow Weaver against the two men. Hordak ran out of the room to keep his distance from the fighting to prevent the princess from being retaken. Man-at-Arms fired his built-in pistols from his wrist at Shadow Weaver, but her magical barriers blocked the shots as she counterattacked with her magic spells. Man-at-Arms dodged the attacks where both the Eternian captain and Horde Enchantress continued to exchange their attacks at each other. To their side was King Randa, who crossed swords with his longtime enemy Kelda as they clashed. The Force captain swung his swords at the king, but Randa parried the strikes and knocked both Kelda's weapons off. Randa pointed his sword on the disarmed Force captain where he kneeled at his mercy. The king shouted at Hordak across the room and demanded him to give back his daughter. He bargained the life of his Force captain in exchange of Adora and their surrender for their crimes against Eternia. Hordak's Force captain was indeed vital to his military force, just as Shadow Weaver, who was important in her role within the Horde Empire. It would be a crippling blow to lose Kelda if he does not give back the princess. On the other hand, it would mean giving up his future rule over the universe for a single man. If sacrificing his own Force captain will assure his greatest goal, then he would gladly sacrifice Kelda. Before Hordak could reply at King Randa's demands, Kelda quietly reached out his hidden grenade to throw it at King Randa. Luckily, Randa brought out his shield in front of him and bounced it off into Kelda's direction by surprise. The explosion of the blast hit Kelda square on the face. He flew across as he screamed in agony. The building walls and ceiling began to fall on them. Marlena quickly shielded her son with her husband protecting them. Shadow Weaver casted a shield around Hordak, who was still holding Adora. When the worst of the explosion stopped, Hordak stood up and saw Kelda, who has been horrifyingly disfigured. His Force captain struggled with his wounds as he pleaded for help. He tried to regain his balance but fell on the ground. Before Shadow Weaver could assist Kelda, footsteps of Eternian soldiers came rushing down from the stairs, and they heard the unmistakable voice of the sorceress who was leading them. They all know too well about their past battles with her. She was a formidable foe who wielded great magical powers. The king and his Eternian captain were already rising and drawing out their weapons to resume their battles against them. The odds were no longer at Hordak's favor. Ever since he lost the element of surprise, including losing one of his own during the fight, it will not end well for both if they do not retreat now. Hordak grimaced on how his plan was compromised and falling apart. He had no choice but to make a run for it and leave Kelda behind where he lay injured. He took the Princess Adora with him. Shadow Weaver followed him to make their escape. The sorceress and Man-at-Arms, including the Eternian guards, were pursuing them. Hordak and Shadow Weaver ran quickly from being captured. In front of them were the royal guards of the palace who were blocking their path. The evil enchantress casted a dark mist to blind the guards. Then they were blasted away by Hordak's wrist cannons. He broke through the castle's window and jetpacked out of the palace, followed by Shadow Weaver, who was covering their escape with the princess. The sorceress who flew out of the tower tried desperately to reach them, but was blown back by Shadow Weaver's dark mist. She was too late. They have vanished completely out of her sights. She looked back at King Randa and Queen Marlena across the tower, who were still carrying their son Adam. She could not bear watching them grieve in despair when they lost one of their beloved children. The sorceress felt a great weight over her failure. She failed her duty as the sorceress, failed Eternia, failed her king and queen, her friends who trusted their lives with her, and most of all failed Princess Adora. But she knew it is not over yet, not by a long shot, until she brings back their daughter to them. And she knew one who will tell her, the only one who knows how to find the Horde's secret base, and find that evil demon Hordak who stole Adora. So, she decided to have a little chat with the Force captain of the Horde.